U.S. versus Sean Combs, day 15. It's been a little bit of a wild morning. There was an incident this morning where a woman who's been at the courthouse a lot, she's a member of the public, we refer to her as MTA Lady because she works for the MTA, and she has been pretty disruptive this entire time, but I guess it's very hard to remove people from the federal building due to First Amendment rights. But she walked into the courtroom this morning when the federal government and the defense were discussing some motions and whatnot with the judge. Out of nowhere, she bursts in and starts screaming, and she's generally screaming about how much, she hates the press. She's been very vocal about this, but she said something along the lines of like, Diddy, they're laughing at you, meaning the press, scream some other things. And by the way, Diddy kind of turned around and he's like his jaw was like on the floor. Everybody was like, what is happening? And then there's 3 federal marshals trying to remove her. She will not move. She's planted her feet and she looks at one of the marshals and she's like, go ahead, use your gun. And then a bunch of the press kind of turned around to make sure, our backs weren't towards whatever was about to happen. But it was a pretty wild moment. And then it was like, okay, moving on. So also in the morning, the federal government brought up, and by the way, this is before the jury walked in. So, but the federal government brought up the fact that they would like to, or they're going to submit a letter so that Diddy's jailhouse phone calls, or some of them, can be released, specifically one where he is supposedly instructing his family to make a birthday post for him, kind of like this birthday social media campaign. And the reason the government wants this admitted, or these phone calls admitted into evidence, is so they can sort of rebut some of what the defense said on cross about Mia, about doing all these birthday posts for Diddy after he allegedly sexually assaulted her and was so horrible to her. They just want to show that Diddy uses his birthday as this marketing tool and always has. So they will be submitting a letter and then the judge will rule on that. But anyway, okay, so the first witness we saw today was Eddy Garcia. He is formerly a security guard for Securitas. He was working at the Intercontinental on March 5th, 2016, the day of the infamous beatdown video, and his shift was at 2 p.m. right after Israel Flores' shift. And, we saw his sign-in sheet, and Israel Flores, along with Bill Medrano, they were his superiors. And we heard from Israel. He was the first witness on the stand, and we have also heard Bill's name before. So Eddy says that he gets a message, or he hears about an incident that happened as soon as he walked in to work. They tell him about the incident, and he realizes after the fact that it is Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura. He goes about his day, and he describes getting a phone call at the security desk, just the general desk. And he said that the caller said that she was Christina Coram, a personal assistant to Sean Combs. And he said he answered the phone, this is Eddy speaking. So she already had his name. And, she just said, I'm aware there is a video and Mr. Combs would like to see it because he was intoxicated and doesn't really remember what happened. And Eddy said that he told Christina, yeah, you're going to have to go get a subpoena or talk to hotel security because I don't have any authority to do anything. And she said, okay, thanks. So he said that about 60 to 90 minutes later, he gets a call from the hotel saying somebody is in the lobby that wants to see you. He goes to the lobby and it's Christina Coram. And she asks again, I want to know if there's any way I can get this video. Mr. Combs wants to see it. He's very stressed. He doesn't remember. And she kind of said, I want to know what we're dealing with. And he told her, again, I can't do anything about this, but off the record, it's really bad. And he described Christina Coram's appearance to the jury and all of us. And then he gets back to his office and he gets, he gets another call from Christina at the desk, and she says someone wants to speak with you. And she passes the phone over to Diddy. And Eddy Garcia described Diddy as being very nervous seeming, just kind of like talking fast and saying, look, this could be very bad for my reputation. You know how women are. I really need to see this video. And Eddy said that, he said, again, I can't do anything. This is above my pay grade type of thing. I don't have access to this room to get the video anyway. So after he hangs up, Eddy said he then sends an email to his boss, Bill Medrano, just to kind of say what's going on, because, you know, that's his job. He's got to just detail everything. So he said, look, Sean Combs is requesting a meeting with the hotel about this video. I just want to pass that along. He seems very worried, whatever. So Eddy says he gets home later that night and he gets a call on his cell phone, which he did not give, he said, to anybody. And it was Christina Coram who passed the phone over to Sean Combs. And that's basically when Diddy says, look, you know, you got to make this happen. I'll take care of you, type of thing. And Eddy said that he understood that to be money. I'll take care of you. So he said that he goes to work and he notifies Bill Medrano about what's going on. And he kind of said, this is what was said to me. And he said that Medrano goes, okay, like thinks about it and says, I'll do it for 50. Eddy said he took that to be $50,000. So he calls up Diddy and says, you know, my boss will do this for $50,000. And he said Diddy sounded very excited. And then he started referring to him as Eddy, my angel. We heard this numerous times. Eddy, my angel. Eddy, my angel. So Eddy hangs up, contacts Bill and says it's a go. And he said that, you know, Diddy wants it done ASAP. So Medrano said okay. And the next day, this is the 7th, March 7th, Medrano gets the USB drive, gives it to Eddy Garcia. Garcia contacts Sean Combs. Sean Combs tells him where to go, meets him 15 minutes away at a high-rise building. He goes up to the building and, you know, KK offers him some tea because he said that his voice kept cracking because he was nervous, and he lied and he just said, yeah, I'm getting sick, but he was really nervous. And that, you know, he said he didn't really drink tea, but Diddy said to Christina, get him, you know, the tea I like or whatever. So he did, and Diddy asks him, look, is this the only copy? He says, you know, I'm not sure, let me just make sure. He calls up Bill. Bill says, yep, the only copy. And then Diddy says, okay, I want your ID, I want Bill's ID, and I want the other person's ID that I saw, which was Israel Flores. And so Eddy said, you know, Israel Flores, he's never going to go for this, which is kind of true. And he calls up Bill, and Bill says, nope, another guy will be okay with it, this guy Henry Elias, who was also on duty. So Bill ends up texting Eddy these IDs, and then they get Eddy's ID in person. Eddy sends them over to Christina or Diddy. Diddy goes into another room. You know, he comes back, he says okay, and he gives Eddy Garcia an NDA to sign. And during, you know, this NDA, we look at specific parts of this, and one part basically says if you violate this, you will be required to pay up $1 million in fine, in a fine type of thing. So he says that he's too nervous. He doesn't really even read it. He just signs it. And then after that, Diddy comes back with a bag full of money and a money counter. And it wasn't $50,000. It was $100,000. And he counts it. And he says that, you know, he gets the money. He stands up to leave. And Diddy offers to walk him out. He walks him downstairs to get his car. He said, what are you going to spend the money on? Garcia says, I don't know. And Diddy says, you know, don't spend it all in one place. He said that Diddy also asked for his car as well. So when Eddy was driving away, he said he kind of looked in the rearview mirror to make sure he wasn't being followed. He wasn't. He said that Diddy contacted him about 2 weeks later, which was Easter, and said, hey, Eddy, my angel, Eddy, my angel, and wanted to make sure that nobody had been talking about the video, which they hadn't, and that was that. And then Eddy said that, you know, he didn't really hear from him again, but he did DM him on Instagram a few years later looking for security work, and Diddy never wrote him back. He testified that he bought a used vehicle with the money. He took 30 grand. The boss, Bill, took 50 grand, and the other guy, Henry, took 20 grand. And during the cross-examination, Brian Steele did it, and he brought up the fact, like, hey, you thought Diddy was a good guy, right? Like, you wanted to work with him again. And he said, yeah, it was fine. And then he also brought up a part in the NDA, which actually said that nothing in this NDA prohibits you ever from talking to law enforcement. And then there was another section that basically said not all elements apply to this NDA. He wanted to just point out that it was fair. But I will go into the second witness more later. He was the CFO, Derek Ferguson, of Bad Boy and Combs Enterprises, so more later.